Good day and welcome back to the From Your Cave with Saladin Ellis. I always wonder if I'm gonna say podcast or whatever, but I'll get that straight one day. Listen, I got 4 videos I want to watch concerning Israel and Lebanon. Learn more about it with you. Remember, we don't play no games with words. We're all very smart people, but we came out the cave. We have Israel officials say that the entire senior command, not one, two, the entire senior command as Hezbollah is wiped off the map. They're saying with the pager attacks, with the walkie-talkie attacks, and then Israel did strike within Lebanon. Then there's some reporting that Lebanon struck the northern part of Israel, where they have a bunch of like sporadic little encampments. So some of the Israelis had to move from the northern portion of Israel. And then we'll also see what Biden and his administration say, if you want to call it a goddamn administration. Biden and his babysitters, we'll see what they're saying. But let's just get it started, see what's happening.
Other news, though, that's breaking as we've been speaking here. This is coming from Israel that carried out what it is describing as a targeted strike in Lebanon, killing a senior Hezbollah military commander. This is Israel hit Lebanon yesterday, launching 140 rockets in an effort to weaken Hezbollah's arsenal. It comes after 2 days of deadly attacks earlier this week in Lebanon, where some 5,000 pagers and walkie-talkies exploded, killing that latest report.
And they're still doing initial investigations on those walkie-talkies and talking to the company. The company that makes the pagers actually said that they don't know what happened, and the Japanese company that makes the walkie-talkies that said they don't know what happened. So it's seeming as if Israel is somehow interceding Hezbollah chain of command or their infrastructure.
At least 37 people, including 2 children, and injuring close to 3,000. My colleague there in Tel Aviv is NBC international correspondent Raf Sanchez. He's joining us now. Raf, there is more reporting that we're learning about this strike. What can you tell us?
Peter, Israel is saying that it struck and killed Ibrahim Akil, one of Hezbollah's top military commanders, a man who Israel says was responsible for attacks on this country since the October 7th Hamas massacre. They are saying he was meeting in a cellar in Dahya in southern Beirut, a Hezbollah stronghold, with senior members of the Radwan unit, that is Hezbollah's most elite military unit. And Israel is claiming that the strike killed not just Akil, but also the top chain of command.
Look at that. So you see what Lebanon is. They struck right inside of Beirut. And then you see how Lebanon borders Israel, right? The top of Israel border Lebanon. So that's where they're saying Lebanon is actually struck also.
Of the Radwan unit. Now, that has not yet been confirmed by Hezbollah. This was a major strike, Peter, first of all, for its location. The fact that it happened in Beirut, where Israel has largely refrained from striking over the course of the war, that is a major, major red line for Hezbollah. It is likely to draw a serious response. But this was also a big strike in terms of the ordnance used. This was not a small drone launching a small missile. This was Israeli warplanes over the capital of Lebanon, dropping heavy ordnance. At least 9 people have been killed, according to the Lebanese Public Health Ministry, some 50 injured. And you can see in some of the footage from the ground in South Beirut that parts of whole buildings have collapsed here. So this is a major blow struck against Hezbollah if it is confirmed that Akil was killed. It is also a major escalation by Israel. And we should say, Peter, that Akil is also a man who is of interest to the United States. There was a $7 million bounty on his head for his alleged involvement in the bombing of both the U.S. Embassy and the U.S. Marine Barracks in Beirut in 1983. So there will be no tears shed in Washington. The elimination of this individual if it is confirmed. Peter.
Wow, his history.
That's good. No tears shed. That's fine. No, there's really no tears on these sides, especially as an American. There's no tears, but it's still a way to do things. There's we're a first world country, so we have to be careful how we do things and escalating. Like, we could have warned him and took him out and say, hey, we know where he at. We're going to take him out. You're not going to do anything about it. But to just strike, that could still lead to something. This is politics.
Back, as you indicate, to that awful day for the American service members there. Raf Sanchez with the very latest. Raf, thank you. And joining me now is Mark Polymeropoulos, who spent years as a CIA officer, including as chief of operations in Europe and Eurasia. Colin Clark joins us as well, director of research at the Soufan Group. Mark, I want to get to you just the reaction to what we just heard right now about these latest these strikes taking place in Beirut, targeting this Hezbollah commander in a cellar there. Turns out the Israelis say that he was with other senior leadership of Hezbollah. How big of a strike is this, and what risk does it pose to the potential for a wider war in that region?
So, first of all, Peter, Ibrahim Akil is someone the CIA, the U.S. intelligence community, know very well. He has a lot of American blood on his hands. As Ralph noted, responsible for the deaths of 241 American servicemen and servicewomen in the 1983 Hezbollah bombing of the Marine Corps barracks, and then the bombing of the U.S. Embassy in Beirut, where CIA officers and U.S. diplomats were killed as well. This is a very bad individual, and frankly, the Israelis, served some justice for Americans, for the families of those who've been killed.
I agree.
Again, this is someone that the CIA knew very, very well. What does it mean overall? And this is kind of going to present day. I mean, Akil was in charge of the Radwan forces. That's Hezbollah's special forces. A unit that would sit along the border, that was seen, especially in the Israeli national security community, as a formidable adversary if Israel had to move into southern Lebanon. And it just goes once again to show, I think, how Israel has achieved almost kind of total intelligence dominance over Hezbollah. This has got to be getting into Hassan Nasrallah's head right now. Over the last 72 hours, some extraordinary operations, and it's clear to me that Israel is following the policy which they have done for some time over the years of escalating to de-escalate. They're making it so uncomfortable for Nasrallah, saying, if you want a wider war, this is what you're going to get. They're hoping.
He's the only one I heard use that term. I'm watching a lot of this. He said they escalate to de-escalate. That's kind of like, I guess that principle, like if you have a kid that go to school and they're getting bullied by somebody, and you tell them like, yo, this bully's going to keep picking on you every day if you don't fight back. Just fight back. But this is almost feels like, okay, once your kid defeats his bully, now there's a chance that that kid that was bullied becomes the bullied. The victim is now the victimizer. I think that is what people are concerned the case is with Israel. It's like, are they on a mission like the Punisher, and they're just going to focus on their target? But what happens once the target's gone? Do they go step aside, or now are they the villain? Is it too far? Because remember, everybody thinks that everybody knows that Israel had the right to defend themselves as a nation. But we can also judge whether it's too far. That's what they're not saying. They keep saying, oh, Israel has the right. It's okay. But now is it too far? In terms of Gaza, not even Lebanon. I'm talking about Gaza here.
That he stands down. The problem is, the adversary gets a vote, and it's still unclear what Nasrallah and, of course, his patrons in Iran, it's unclear what they'll do.
Well, so, Mark, that's where I want to drill down on that with Colin for a second. And all three of us, I'm sure, have spent a ton of time in that region. It's hard to even communicate to Americans just the tightness of the way that those countries are together, right? Gaza to Lebanon is only a matter of hours, the drive you can make from the southern border of Israel to the northern border of Israel with Lebanon. This is already a war-weary country right now with a potential to be dealing, Colin, with a second, conflict in real terms on its northern border. What concerns you about this and the potential, as I was asking Mark, about this thing exploding with Hassan Nasrallah now waiting for whatever the retaliation may be?
Look, I'm concerned about a broader conflagration, particularly one that drags in the United States. I think Hezbollah has to respond. There's nothing worse than showing weakness in the Middle East. Even if the response is performative or symbolic in nature, Hezbollah has to respond. Just an amazing kind of setup by the Israelis here with the pager and walkie-talkie explosions, disrupting Hezbollah's command and control, forcing them to meet in person, and then seemingly bombing that meeting of high-level individuals. So really an intelligence masterclass here by Mossad, by the Israelis, but the region's still on edge, waiting to see what happens next.
And Colin, let me ask you about that, though. The UN Security Council is meeting today. They're going to address allegations that war crimes were committed in those device explosions in Lebanon. Israel hasn't confirmed responsibility. U.S. officials tell NBC News Israel was behind it right now. But is this an acceptable form of warfare? There's no way to know with thousands of pagers and walkie-talkies exactly whose hands those devices are in when they explode.
It's almost like they didn't care. It's like if they attack 9/11, they attack the U.S. It don't matter if it's the politicians they're mad at, whatever. They just said, hey, we want Americans. So is Israel at this point, people are saying, do Israel want the terrorists, or are they just saying we just want all Muslims? Like, hey, we don't care. You know him, he's your neighbor. You need to do it. It don't matter. Collective punishment.
Look, I'll leave accusations of war crimes to the international lawyers to figure out. As a terrorism expert, I can tell you this is not new. We've been seeing, while the pager explosion may be lifted from a Hollywood, film, this is a shadow war that's been going on between Israel and Iran and Iran's proxies. So this is kind of par for the course in many ways between all these entities involved.
Mark, let me ask you why now, you think, why Benjamin Netanyahu, presuming it was Israel, of course, acted now in taking this action. Clearly there was a concern that Hezbollah was going to do something and they wanted to preempt that, but what specifically do you think drove this decision making?
Well, I think there's just incredible frustration in Israel that 70,000 citizens can't return to the north. The Israeli cabinet has now made that a war aim. To get these citizens to go home, and there is support across kind of the Israeli political spectrum to take care of what's happening in the north. Frankly, this is more of an existential threat to Israel than anything that was going on in Gaza. So I do think it's the notion that they were going to kind of climb the escalatory ladder. They were going to undertake these operations. They have this incredible tool in the toolkit. Policymakers would go back to the intelligence community and say, what do you have? Well, they had this incredible kinetic intelligence operation involving the pagers and walkie-talkies. And so, was this the right time? Perhaps it would have been better if this was just preceding a land move into southern Lebanon where Hezbollah would be incapacitated. But I do see the logic also of sending a message to Hassan Nasrallah that they have to stand down. And so, again, the question is, what will Hezbollah do now?
Listen, just for a moment before we go to the next video, I'll get that ready. I think that this is so crazy. It's almost like you know what it is. It's almost like if we as Americans go to war with a country, and it's justified, right? And we just go, you know what? Tomorrow we invading Canada, and we go and invade Canada because rightfully so. There's still etiquette, right? It's like even in Iraq and Afghanistan and you got Abu Ghraib, you got soldiers pissing on people and prisoners. Once you are a prisoner of war, once you are a POW, it don't matter your side. There are certain rules and regulations. Because if we're caught, if American troops are caught as prisoners of war, if we go to war with China, Russia, and they catch some of our soldiers, Marines, airmen, sailors, you would never want to think that they would be doing harm to them while they're trapped. It's like, okay, like we all agree that you get one life, and if you're a military member, especially, maybe some civilians don't get it. If you're a military member, sometimes you're out there and you get why they fight. You be like, damn, we going there for oil, man. We know why they fight. I'd fight too. It's still human decency. That's what we're talking about with Israel is a difference between a first world country and a third world country, right? We say in the West we're morally superior. That's basically what we do. Let me turn this down. We're basically claiming that we're morally superior to these other countries because we know better. Because they still focus on eye for an eye, but an eye for an eye leaves the whole world blind, right? That's what they taught us. So at this point, the only thing that I would say is Netanyahu is increasing the range on this war for his own self-interest and pretending that it happens to be maybe what some people want, because they basically got Gaza locked down now, and it's getting so locked down that they would have to be like, okay, we need to come to a ceasefire at this point. Even if Hamas don't want to, we have the power to just come in. Hamas gone. So at this point, he needs to like, damn, Hamas is almost depleted, and I don't want this to come to an end. So what we need to do? Oh, let's attack Lebanon, and almost forcing Iran's hand on this, and maybe to get the U.S. to come in on this. And I don't know. I don't see this ending. Like I keep saying, I don't see this ending good for Netanyahu, and not good for anybody else either. Let's see what this is. So Lebanon strikes northern Israel with rockets. Let me see.
Hezbollah pounded northern Israel with rockets today, a day after the militant group's leader vowed to retaliate against Israel for a mass bombing attack. Hezbollah says its attack targeted air defense bases as well as the headquarters of an Israeli armored brigade. NBC's Raf Sanchez reports on the damage from Tel Aviv.
The Israeli military continuing strikes across southern Lebanon for a second day. An Israeli security official telling NBC News that Israeli forces are attacking with artillery and airstrikes, but at this point, ground forces have not crossed the border, and they seem to be pursuing a broader set of aims than the sort of skirmishing tit-for-tat that we have seen over the last year. Israel says the goal is to degrade Hezbollah's capabilities all across southern Lebanon. They say that they took out around 100 rocket launching sites in those strikes yesterday. Hezbollah is firing back. The sirens are going off in northern Israel. We are seeing smoke rising in some areas there. And all of this deepening fears that we may be hurtling towards all-out war following those 2 days of explosions, first pagers and then walkie-talkies in Lebanon. U.S. officials say that was a vast, covert Israeli operation targeting Hezbollah members, but a number of civilians are known to have been killed in that attack, which is drawing increasing criticism from human rights groups and some Democratic members of Congress. At this point, the Israeli military has lifted.
You got to take that into account too. If this was Republicans in charge, it might be different. This is the Democratic Party, the party of freedom, the party of no war, the hippies. Let's all get along. So the fact that they just keep supplying them with weapons and weapons and weapons, they kind of like Israel's kind of blowing the covers over like, hey, we're the good guys. Israel, like, we don't give a fuck if you're Republican or Democrat. Give us what we asking for. So that Israel, this war is kind of pulling the sheet to see that, oh, they both sides of warmongering. Got it.
Restrictions on the civilian population in the north of the country. That appears to be a sign that they are not anticipating an immediate escalation. But there is a lot of concern on both sides of the border right now, especially after Hassan Nasrallah, the leader of the Iranian-backed militant group Hezbollah, said that Israel's operation with the pagers and walkie-talkies crossed all red lines and could be considered a declaration of war. Raf Sanchez, NBC News, Tel Aviv.
In the wake of those deadly explosions in Lebanon this week, Qatar Airways is banning pagers and two-way radios on board planes leaving out of Beirut's airport. The ban applies for checked and carry-on luggage as well as in cargo storage. Lebanon's health ministry says 37 people have been killed and around 3,000 injured.
And we even think about that. What if they were on a flight? Can you imagine being on a flight, like multiple of them doing that? Just because these are regular members, they could have been on vacation. These pages were for like emergency situations. That's crazy. Blew a whole kill. Oh my God, I didn't even think about that.
By those exploding pagers and walkie-talkies.
Yes, this is a claim being put out by the Israeli military. It hasn't been confirmed either by Lebanese government sources or by Hezbollah. Now, significantly, the Israeli announcement doesn't just mention Aqil. It says that the top operatives and chain of command of the Radwan unit, which is Hezbollah's elite military unit, were eliminated. This, if true, is certainly highly significant, because what we've been seeing going back to the 30th of July when Fuad Shukr, the head of the military wing of Hezbollah, was killed in an Israeli strike in Beirut, including the events of this week, Tuesday's pager attacks, Wednesday's walkie-talkie attacks, and now this represents, if this last strike did indeed kill Aqil and the other members of the Radwan force, a body blow to Hezbollah. This is not a battle in the battle zone on the border. This battle has been brought to the heart of the Lebanese capital. And it's going to be very difficult for Hezbollah with its communications systems interfered with compromised by Israel, with its top military leadership taken out by Israel. It's very hard to imagine how it can carry on its current military operations and function as it did in the past. Until now, those operations, Hezbollah's attacks on Israel, have been limited to the border area. Now this war, and I think it's fair to say we're very close to a full-out war between Hezbollah and Israel, has spread far beyond that area. Now at this point we know that according to the Ministry of Health here in Lebanon, that 9 people have been killed. So this is the preliminary figures, have been killed in this strike, 59 injured, 8 of them in critical condition. And this happened when, according to the official news agency here, an Israeli F-35 warplane fired 2 missiles on buildings in the Jamusa neighborhood in southern Beirut, flattening those buildings. Now we understand that there are rescue crews on the scene frantically digging through the rubble trying to find any survivors. Earlier today we heard dozens of ambulances rushing to the scene, and the CNN crew there described a scene of absolute pandemonium and chaos as people, the injured and the dead, were being taken away.
Yeah, he gonna be saying the same thing, man.
The sonic booms of Israeli warplanes rang out over Beirut.
Listen, that was the end of that. We don't need to see that no more. This is, I don't even know what to say anymore. Like, how many times can we keep repeating? Like, this needs to stop before something else happens. It needs a 2-state solution. You put people in Gaza for years and years, like, as a man. I know, like, pretend there's no such thing as men and women and we want the same thing, but as a man with testosterone flowing through your goddamn veins, it's like we have this innate ability to not want to be stepped on. That's why in America we have "Don't Tread on Me." You cannot hold, whether it's slavery, whether it's jail, whatever it is in the hoods, people are going to escape. There will be a mass uprising, and it will be bloody. So, like, I don't know. If you put any group of people in Gaza for years, this would have happened. Hamas would have happened, no matter where you go. Think about it. We have gangs. We have the Hells Angels, Bloods, Crips, GDs, BDs, whatever it is. The Mongols, whatever it is. If you put people in an economic position where they feel like they can't do the right thing and get out, they're going to start doing it the illegal way or do it in violence. We're men. We're warriors.
Beirut on Thursday, as the jets carried out Israel's most intense strikes on southern Lebanon in nearly a year late on Thursday. The strikes escalated tension between Israel and Hezbollah, while the US and UK call for restraint. Britain has called for an immediate ceasefire, and White House spokesperson Karine
Everybody's
Jean-Pierre
calling for
told the
enough.
briefing
Calling for
diplomacy
these.
was still achievable.
When they say calling for it, they go on public and say, "We need a 2-state solution." Okay, see you later. Here we go. Oh God, I hate watching this lady lie. She's a beautiful woman, but she lies.
We are concerned about the tension and afraid and concerned about potential escalation. We have said
The United States is afraid, and we're afraid. Like we have no power over, but we have power over both sides.
that in the Middle East. We've been very clear, and we've also said that the way to move forward is diplomatic resolution.
This video released by the
solution.
Israeli army was said to show the bombardment, which the army said included more than 52 strikes and targeted multiple rocket launcher barrels in southern Lebanon. There were no immediate reports of casualties.
They're trying to report that it was over 100 strikes. That's what they're reporting.
Israel's military vowed to continue to attack Hezbollah and said its Thursday strikes hit about 100 rocket launchers, plus other targets in southern Lebanon. It claimed the rockets were set to be fired immediately towards Israel. The intense barrage followed attacks that saw radios and pagers carried by Hezbollah blow across Lebanon, killing nearly 40 people and wounding thousands. Lebanon and Hezbollah pin the blame on Israel. Hezbollah leader Hassan Nasrallah said in a Thursday TV address the device explosions on Tuesday and Wednesday crossed all red lines. Israel has not directly commented on the pager and radio detonations, which security sources say were probably carried out by its Mossad spy agency. Mossad has a long history of carrying out sophisticated attacks on foreign soil. Hezbollah has expressed a desire for further military engagement, while the situation remains.
Thanks for joining CBS News 24/7 on this Friday. I'm Lindsay Reiser, and we
continuing to try to do what we tried from the beginning to make sure that both the people in northern Israel as well as southern Lebanon are able to go back to their homes and go back safely. And
Jesus, did Biden age 57 years since the debate? Look at this man, Rico. It's like they stopped trying to put makeup on him and everything. Oh my God.
Secretary of State, Secretary of Defense, our whole team is working in the intelligence community to try to get that done. We're going to keep at it till we get it done, but we've got a way to go.
Thank you so much. Thank you, everybody. We're moving this way.
Is it realistic to get to a ceasefire deal, or have too many bad things happen that make it difficult?
If I ever said it's not realistic, we might as well leave. A lot of things don't look realistic until we get them done. We have to keep at it. Thank you.
Thank you, Press. Thank you, everybody. Thank you.
That was President Biden speaking there. You saw Secretary of State Antony Blinken to his right, and he was asked about the situation.
And the Homefront Command has urged Israelis in the north of Israel to avoid mass gatherings and to stay close to bomb shelters.
We have learned that top Hezbollah member Ibrahim Akhil was targeted in the Israeli strike. What more do we know?
Commando unit of Hezbollah that has been
This is a social media campaign. We know they all do things, right? You know they all fighting each other, do proxy groups and everything else. So they're trying to tell us, like, hey, don't be sad about it. This dude. But what about everybody else? Forget this dude. Fuck him. Okay, he did. What about the civilians that are still being hurt? What about the people in Gaza that are still starving and almost famished? This is good, but this is a social media campaign.
Forefront of a lot of the attacks, the cross-border attacks against Israel. He's also part of the Jihad Council, which is one of the top military bodies of Hezbollah. Now, I don't see a ceasefire that the president wants on the horizon. This attack by the Israelis on a top Hezbollah commander is basically raising the ante. Now, the question is, how is Hezbollah going to respond? I think the Israelis are sending a message to Hezbollah to stop these cross-border attacks and to back down. Now, the Hezbollah leader said yesterday that he won't do that. And we're seeing this. We saw over 200 missiles flying across the border today. And basically the question now is, how does Hezbollah respond? Do they escalate? Do they?
Mm-hmm. Listen, that's what it is right now. Every time Biden goes and says that, hey, we're getting close to it, or we need to come to a ceasefire or a two-state solution, Netanyahu literally the next day or that night sends a strike out to almost like I don't know what he's talking about. He ain't speaking for us. It's like the disrespect. And I wouldn't even vote for Biden. I would never. But the fact that Israel, and I don't like to say Israel, Netanyahu and his administration and his cabinet thinks that they can just really undermine the presidency. They're undermining everything he say. If he can't, I expect another strike after he just said that we need to, it's unrealistic, but we need to do it, and then everything's realistic. I actually was like, hey, almost Biden for a second, like, oh yeah, it's unrealistic, but he kind of took I'm the president, just because it seems unrealistic. Well, watch when we get it done. But then it's like, I know Netanyahu going to do something. It's almost like maybe Hezbollah, them not doing anything, and just look, they keep doing it. We're not doing nothing. Might be the best move. It's like he's trying to egg them on. Like he's pushing them. Like two people get in the face and they bumping shoulders. Like you do it first. You do it first. But I mean, it's kind of like that. But really, Israel's already striking. They're trying to pull the card. They want Iran to strike them again directly to fuel this whole thing up again. So then people It wouldn't be right, but they're literally lying in our face. So they're going to keep saying, yeah, but. They want that from Iran, and Hezbollah. They want them to do something. So when we say, look, so we need to stop this war. This is crazy. It's been going on for almost a year. They're going to say, yeah, I agree. Any loss of life is bad, but. And then they're going to name some outdated war. Look what the U.S. did in Iraq and Afghanistan. And we're going to say, yeah, we were against them too. Like, you're supposed to know better. You do better. They know what happened. They know at the end of the Afghanistan war, at the end of the Iraq war, we felt like as Americans, we didn't accomplish shit. Kuwait war, Vietnam war, what did we accomplish? But we literally just keep murdering, defend ourselves, go to war. It's crazy. They better not try to get American troops in here. That's just the last thing. They better not try to find a way to send American troops in there. We don't have the appetite for it. We are hungry. There are civilians here. We are hungry. We need help. We have homeless mass integrations. We're fighting abortion rights, and we want this to stop. We need to go into isolationism and surround ourselves in our border. This is crazy, man. But let me know what you think in the comments section. Like, share, subscribe, all that.